Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, there lived a good king and his queen. They had no children for many years and were very sad. The one day, the queen gave birth to a lovely baby girl, and the whole kingdom was happy. There was a grand celebration, and all the fairies in the kingdom were invited. But the king forgot to invite an old fairy. She came to the celebration but was very angry. Soon it was time to bless the baby with special wishes. The good fairies wishes her well and said, "May she grows to be the most beautiful girl in the world. She will sing sweetly and dance so well. She will live happily." All the fairies blessed the baby and gave her beautiful gifts. When it was the old fairy's turn, she said, "When the baby is 16, she will touch a spindle and die."
What?
The king and queen were shocked and begged the fairy to forgive them and take her words back, but the fairy refused to do so. When the other fairies saw the king and queen crying, they said, "We cannot undo what the old fairy has spoken, but we certainly can make it different. Your child shall not die when she touches the spindle, but she will fall into a deep sleep for 100 years. Then a prince will come and wake her up." Hearing this, the king and the queen were relieved. The king forbade everyone from spinning so that the princess would never touch the spindle. The princess grew up to be a kind girl and helped people in need. Everybody loved her. Years passed. When the princess was 16 years old, she was walking into the woods when she saw an old lady spinning. She asked, "What is this? May I try?" The old lady said, "Of course, my child." And the princess sat down to spin. But the moment she touched the spindle, it fell on the floor in a deep slumber. The old lady took her back to the palace, and the king and queen laid her on her bed. They were very sad and called the good fairies. The fairies felt sorry for them and cast a spell over the whole kingdom so that when the princess wakes up after 100 years, she would not be alone in the palace. Everyone, including the guards, the servants, and the animals, were now fast asleep. For 100 years, they all slept. 100 years passed. There came a prince from a far-off land. He, along with his servants, went deep into the forest and crossed many rivers. Once the prince lost his way and was separated from the rest of the travelers. He came to the sleeping kingdom and was amazed. The guards, the servants, the cats, and the cows were all fast asleep and snoring. The prince reached the palace and entered it. No one moved. The prince then found the sleeping princess. She was such a beautiful girl. The prince kissed her. By that time, 100 years had passed and everyone started waking up one by one. The princess yawned and opened her eyes. She saw the prince and smiled. The prince and the princess fell in love with each other. The prince wanted to marry the princess. The king and the queen arranged for a royal wedding. All the clothes the bride wore were 100 years old, but she looked beautiful. Soon they were married and then they rode away to the prince's kingdom forever. All well that ends well. Moral of this story. The moral of this story is obey your parents. They are kind towards their children, so always they think good for children.